Okay, so in this video, what we're going to be talking about is a couple different things, really. One is going to be like the use of a JSR in an input and output parameter, or input parameter and return parameter. Then we're also going to be looking at the return side of that, or the subroutine side of that is going to be the indirect addressing, collecting that data and getting it back out of that subroutine. So therefore, in this case, what I've already done is basically selected whatever product that that we want to run, and then it will produce that product out in the return side. So real quick, I'll simulate that. What I'll do, and so I've input one. We're going to be using parameter 1 or product 1, and it's the active parameter code is 1. So what that's doing is, again, this accepted product entry right here is being input into JSR as the input it goes to. Well, what happens on the subroutine side is you have an input. You make a subroutine, or you have the subroutine instruction, use the input, and the input doesn't have to be the same tag. A lot of times what people misconstrue and maybe don't understand about I guess parameter passing with JSRs is that the tag has to be the same. So if you look at it, the tag we're putting in, the input tag is called accepted underscore product entry. Now, the tag we're loading into is called product code. The only thing that needs to be the same there is the data type. So as long as the data type matches, then you're perfectly fine. As far as that, it's actually preferred that the two do not match as far as code per code or tag per tag. 90%, I would say 99% of the time, you're never going to see that. So when this actually happens, this passes this one over here. So what happens is basically I have a small section of code where I'm using that product code as the indirect address to look at an array to tell me what that array value has, and then I'm loading it into product code running, and then the return the return parameter I'm sending is called product code running. So and when it returns the active product code. Again, it's not the same tag, but it is the same tag data type. So that's what's important here. It's not to understand that the tag should be the same. It should be that the tag data type should be the same. So therefore, if I wanted to have product 3, for instance, oh, okay, so I got the product 1, 2, 2. I actually have a 2 in here, I'm sorry. So if you looked at this, I actually have a 2 in there. So I actually had the wrong value. And you notice it still did change. So it looked at the wrong value. And again, that's throwing a 3 into here, a 3 into here, and searching out this indirect address, going to this portion, which is 3, loading in that 3, which is coming back into this 3 and into the return parameter. So it's very the way I have it set up right now is it's kind of very clean and done properly. And as far as that goes, you're going to see stuff like this, inputs and output parameters. What I've done is I've actually put this together and made this as far as basically some sample code, and just to show exactly what how this is done. I made this code for a question that was done on my Patreon account and my Patreon member group, and I answered it. I did like a 24-minute video, and I built the code in front of them, and then I did another video and it simplified it like I did here. So you get to see a lot more from that. If you are interested in that, check out my Patreon members group. I'll have it linked below. But not to talk about that too much, let's talk about the code a little bit more. Again, it's very, very simple. I have hard code values in here, loading it each one of these depending upon which product is selected. Basically just loading it into the accepted product entry. That accepted product entry is the input parameter in the JSR. JSR is always on. The rung down here is AFI'd out. That's just to let you know which product code is being returned. So this is not actually being used. This move instruction, it's not being used at all. So that's just to let you know what product code is being used. So if I toggle 6 right here, it's going to come in, it's going to load in a 6 right here, it's going to produce a 6 out right here, and then that's what that is. All I'm doing is giving a representation of what that is down here. Similar to what I'm doing over here with the no operation. I'm doing a JSR, that's where I get my input. I'm doing a return, that's where I get my return parameter out. So and this of course is using the indirect addressing. I have a whole series of indirect addressing videos on YouTube, so they should be in their own playlist. So if you need to look at that, just if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe and check out my playlist and see the indirect addressing stuff in there as well. This is basically just a simple code to show the input and output parameter of a JSR and how to use it. So again, if you are actually interested in seeing more further, a little bit more of how this code was built and how this all got derived and how it came about, and you might want to check out my Patreon. Again, I'll have it linked below, and that would be very helpful. But again, I still wanted to give the people that support me on YouTube, the code and let them see it, and let them see exactly what's happening, because a lot of you will understand completely what's happening here. I'm just loading in a value, and that value is getting put in the input parameter, and then coming back and getting loaded out of that parameter, and coming back being used outside. So a lot of times they use these JSR inputs and output parameters as a way to basically modulus program. They can use them like throughout the program for different functions, but the same thing happened. The internal code is the same, so they use them everywhere. That's what a lot of OEMs do. So the reason I made this video is to show that and to give you a better understanding. This is actually, and I made this small notepad right here, is to say that in a JSR, using JSR parameters, the tags do not need to line up. And in fact, 99% of the cases they don't, unless the tag scope is in program and not in controller scope. Now that is very rare. I will say that 99% of the time they are not lined up. So what you need to do is actually line up your data types. Therefore, if the dent is the input for the subroutine, then it needs to be a dent as the input to the subroutine. Okay, so the same for the output. A bool to a bool, a dent to a dent, or a real to a real, or an int to an int, or a cent to a cent. Meaning there are data types that we primarily use with this, being a bool, a cent, an int, a dent, and a real. Right? Each one of these coincides with the most common data types. These are not limited to the data types that can be used, but they are. So often you'll find a bunch of things that have multiple inputs. You do not have to use all the inputs. You can just, if there's 3 inputs, you can only choose to use 1 if you want to. On the subroutine side, you can choose to use all 3 or just 2. The return side, it's the same thing. So I made this notepad to kind of show a little bit of information behind it. As far as the indirect addressing stuff, again, if you're interested in that, you can check out my playlist. Always subscribe to the channel, and we'll be producing more videos, and that way you keep up with everything coming out. I do produce pretty much weekly, so that does help you stay in the loop of learning and growing with programming. So this is the reason I started it, is to help people. I fully appreciate all the support from my YouTube channel, all the people that are in my Patreon, and all the people that have been part of my Udemy courses and stuff. So again, thank you for everything. And again, I just wanted to give a quick video on basically inputs and outputs. parameters of a JSR. So hopefully you found that helpful, and you know, if you have any comments, just please leave them below, and feel free to check out the Patreon stuff. Again, there's a lot of free stuff there, so don't feel like it's just paid content. There's a lot of free stuff there too as well. So use that as what you will. Again, I welcome you all comments and everything. If you have anything that you'd like to see more and you're not part of Patreon, leave it below in the comments, and I'll be glad to see if I can't put something together for you. Okay, thank you, and I hope everybody's having a good weekend.